You're watching Enterprise Nation TV with O2 Business.
To where your entrepreneurial journey began. So tell me the story of maybe your first business and how you got there.
Yeah, so I literally started working on a beer truck at university to pay for school, and I had family history in the beer business. I ended up working for Miller Brewing Company, a large corporate, for 8 years. I ended up in brand management, launching ad campaigns, but I thought there was something missing, and I decided to join a startup in Atlanta back in 1998 called WebMD, started by my college roommate. I just felt like I was more of an entrepreneur, and that was my first startup. It was focused on creating a global brand that basically created the connections between doctors and consumers and bridged that trust gap, so we became the leading brand globally that bridged the gap of trust between doctors and patients, consumers.
I mean, that was still very, very early internet. So what was it like those days, compared to now running a startup?
Yeah, it was wild, wild west. I was the, I had this kind of education, and I had some experience as a brand manager, but nothing that prepared me for getting into that, and I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, I understand why it's a young industry, because I think when you're very young, you don't think of the consequences of your decisions. We took some crazy risks back then. For example, one of the stories I remember, we were launching our brand on our ad campaign, and we had $800,000 cash in the bank, and we took out $400,000 ad in Wall Street Journal, a double truck ad, which is a full two-page ad in the Wall Street Journal launching the WebMD. So half of our bank account went into this one ad, and it was a crazy decision. I would never do it again, but what we did was, in the ad in the corner, we said partners in practice, and we used that. Back then, all the CEOs of the major healthcare companies needed an internet strategy, and so we used that ad as a pushing mechanism to get them to close their investment into the company. So that little ad, the $400K, helped us raise $32 million of equity, and the rest is history. So it was very different also. There was only 5 million websites out there when we launched WebMD. We had very much a spray and pray marketing mentality, but we were also doing a lot of things that were early pioneers. We were, for example, one of the first subscription-based models. We had a $29.95 a month product for physicians, sort of a precursor to a lot of the SaaS or cloud-based pricing models. We were one of the first companies to use PR as really the tip of the spear, or how to build a brand, with earned media instead of paid media. So that was a big pioneering aspect. Things like that.
You exited pretty quickly and raised all that money. Why do you think it went so well? Is that risk-taking a major reason why you think it's
So we were about 9 or 10 months after I got there, we were acquired, and I think that obviously luck and timing play a tremendous part of that. But I think we had developed the leading brand, and we had a tremendous amount of buzz and awareness, and we were assembling the best partners, and companies like Microsoft, companies like DuPont. We took one of the first online brands and went out offline and connected into, for example, even in around here, you go to Boots, CVS, we cut a deal with CVS, which is now CVS Boots, and we're on the bags, when you go to the pharmacy. So we took the online brand, you'll see WebMD there, we went out to offline channels. We created this ubiquitous brand and presence and technology and product, and I think it became very valuable, and companies came after us to acquire it because it was a feeling like we were going to become a huge company.
Now at that point you could have retired, gone live on the desert island and enjoyed it, but then since then you've started 2 more.
Yes.
So do you want to talk a bit about those 2 and what happened to those?
Yeah, so I took some time off, went to Hawaii. I had 2 young children at the time, and I guess after a month, maybe my wife, love her to death, but she was like, hey, you need to go find a job, because I was probably driving her crazy. So, and I was very young at the time, and I just felt like seeing people in my life that I care about, my father and my father-in-law, they retired generally early, probably around late 50s or early 60, and I just saw more opportunity and challenges that I wanted to help solve. So second startup. I met these interesting engineers. They were kind of blue-collar engineers, if you will, from the cable television industry, but they were focusing on adding value to the cable industry. They had great relationships, but they were a little bit misfocused. So they were focused on services to enable interactive television, and I thought, these guys have got great credibility and relationships, but they need to be focused. Let's focus on something that I understand, which is TV on my time. So we refocused them on video on demand, created an open source, open standards technology platform for video on demand. So helping cable sort of compete with Netflix back in 10, 13 years ago. We became the leading platform to enable cable, satellite, and telco companies to enable video on demand. Again, used several of the same tactics, focused on partnerships, created credibility and trust. Went to the largest cable companies in the world, like Comcast, and said, this is our vision for the future of television. What is yours? And help us develop the roadmap together. That company grew very rapidly and became a market leader and was acquired by Tandberg. After that, I was at Tandberg 14 months, became president, and ultimately had the vision that saw in 2006 more and more people were consuming content on social media. Again, back in 2006, I was watching sites like YouTube, had just started, in Rever, and I saw this vast amount of content created by two kids in a basement would create a cat video and it would be viewed by millions of people, and I said, they're democratizing content, and anybody can have access to a global audience. I also had 6 children by now, or 4 at the time. My oldest daughter had an iPod, and on her playlist was emblematic of her personality, attributes, how she was perceived by her friends, so kind of user-generated, created content. And I thought, Apple's onto something here, so I wanted to aim to create a platform that helped brands connect to consumers on social media, because 9 out of 10 consumers buy products or services, even back then, based upon a recommendation from a peer or friend. So I thought, if I can create a platform, I can work with 500 marketers to help them shape how they connect with consumers on social media. So that's how that got started.
I mean, all your businesses have been acquired by these big brands, and a lot of the startups that I interview at that early stage, they're thinking, will that day ever happen? So what's your advice for being acquired, and then when it comes to the negotiations with the big guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, from a startup business, you got to identify a big disruptive market opportunity. You got to focus and solve problems that create differentiation, and you got to become the market leader. And then I think focusing on that and focusing on the needs of customers and solving their problems, everything else will take care of itself. Specifically around acquisition and integration, I've done it now 3 times. The first one I lasted, I think, 9 or 10 months. The second one, 14 months. And at Oracle, proud to say 4.5 years. And I think you got to take a long-term view. I think where the biggest challenges that startups face when they're acquired, especially among the rank and file employees, is the grass is greener. So all of a sudden you're acquired, you're hot, and you rest on your laurels, and everybody's coming after you, recruiters. And in many cases, people just don't give the acquisition company time to be able to see the value and find the unique nature of the acquired company. Not everybody, is going to work for a big company, but someone like Oracle, who's really innovating at the edges, constantly changing and developing the next generation. And frankly, over half of our employee base comes from acquisition, so it's a culture that values diversity and values opinions from people not necessarily that have been there for 40 years. I look at that as an opportunity, to add value and change and be disruptive, even inside a big company like Oracle that's really dedicated to cloud computing and next generation. So it's all about having a glass half full, and I'm kind of a pragmatic optimist, I guess.
So moving smoothly onto the accelerator. So how did the idea for the accelerator program come about?
Well, we've been very keen as we've been developing our cloud portfolio for about 10 years, and specifically more increasingly focused on platform and infrastructure, and what are the best ways we can leverage that into the marketplace, and really start to think about how do we democratize Oracle, how do we make Oracle more contemporary, how do we change opinion perhaps and solidify our place in the future with students and with young startups. one of the aspects of that, there's a bunch of things we're doing. I mentioned Code, Developer Conference, and Oracle Academy. We've got Oracle Digital, which is a program where we bring in young employees to work on inside sales. So there's a whole bunch of other things. The Accelerator represents a unique opportunity for us to find a very select, targeted amount of startups and geographies around the world. We started this in Bangalore, where we have a big development center, kind of did a beta, saw what worked, what didn't, and one of the key aspects of that was finding companies that are thinking about the next generation of cloud, that need some product development mentoring, that need access to the cloud, that can give us feedback and requirements on what's working, what's not, how to scale, and then hopefully ultimately connecting those from a sales biz dev standpoint where we have needs with customers around the globe. So that's the idea, and that's the nature of it. We're building this as a startup, so we're trying to recruit even employees on my team or folks that have sort of a different DNA, that are going to be nimble, hardworking, pragmatic, and think on their feet, and because this is going to continue to pivot. There's no question about, from my standpoint.
When you look at a lot of these things like this, maybe I don't because I'm based in this, not in the big capital, but a lot of people assume this is going to be London.
Yeah.
When you come to the UK, surely it's the first one's London. So why did you pick Bristol as the first one? Yeah.
I felt like we needed to come in where and add value to an existing ecosystem where we've already got some wins and some strength. So London's amazing. We have a big office in Moorgate. We've got tons of massive customers there, but I felt like in Bristol, it's a very tight and it's a focused ecosystem, and I feel like here we can control our destiny to start. We can get a few startups in the door and connection together with the university programs. We've got credits going on already with the university for students to be able to develop on our cloud platform. We can test and learn and try things in Bristol that get the model right and really add value, not only for the startups, but the entire ecosystem. And then we can use that as a test bed, as a launch bed to globally. So that's where I felt like Bristol really represented a unique opportunity for us. And we've got substantial development expertise here and horsepower, people like Phil Bates and others on his team that are developing next generation infrastructure with bare metal. So we want these startups to give us that feedback.
Just finally, on the panel just now, there was a lot of talk about diversity in the mayor, and you mentioned it. And there's a lot of comments about there's a lack of women in tech, maybe different races and religions.
Yeah.
So is that a major part of what you hope that there will be a bigger sort of wider impact on the city from you coming in?
Yeah, absolutely. I would tell you that, again, I think where a lot of these programs fall down is that is not necessarily the headline and the lead of the program. I feel like we got to go find the best and brightest minds and startups, no matter what their diversity or gender. But I think also when I was at my startup, you have to have this mindset of paying it forward, giving back, and giving people opportunities that wouldn't otherwise have that. So we need to be able to create an ecosystem here that values diversity, that's inclusive, that brings in ideas and innovation from all corners, all economic, all religious, all cultural aspects of that. And I think it'll make us more successful together. It's not competitive, it's complementary. And so I'm a big believer in this because I saw it happen myself. But you have to make deliberate actions. That intent is going to drive outcome.